What's going on, guys? Raymond here. I'm back with another video. So in this video we are going to look at how we can use props in React. So let's get started. So I've opened up this application here which we are going to use. Then I've also installed the React application using create React app. So I'll just put this side by side so that you guys can see. Okay, so I've also created a few notes that will be able to follow along. So what are props? Props are arguments passed into React components. Props are passed to components via HTML attributes. Props are also how you pass data from one component to another as parameters. Okay, so don't worry if you do not understand any of those terminologies. They are just there maybe to help us theoretically. Let's look at how this works. Okay, so I'll give you an example. The way we pass in props, like if you are familiar with HTML and CSS, when you want to maybe define a class, like the way we have done here, maybe you want to style this, you are going to say class name is equal to app so that you can use it in CSS. Even here in H1 you can define, maybe you can say class name, maybe is equal to whatever, maybe you can say my header, my dash header. So the purpose you want to do this is you want to style this. Okay, so it's the same we pass props in React, we just pass them as attributes in the components. So to see how this works, instead of using HTML elements like this, we use what are known as components. So we pass in components, in the components we pass in props. Okay, so let's see how this works. So I'm just going to create another component here. So within the components folder I'll just create just a test.js. Remember we start components with uppercase, then click on that, then let me just hide the sidebar, and within there I'm just going to I've installed what is known as React ES7 snippets, which is an extension. You can just go to extensions here and install that. Then when you just type this, it will come up with that. Okay, so you can just say here welcome. Okay, so when we save this and we have seen that we're exporting it, then we can just go to app.js. Then within app.js we can just import it there on top. So you can just say import test, then from, then you put in those, then you include the path there. Okay, then you come here wherever you want to render this component. Let's just render it below there. So you can just say test, then the way we close the component is just self-closing. Okay, so to see how props work, so we can just save this and we are going to see we have that welcome there. Okay, now to see how props works, the same way we are just passing in arguments there in the HTML tags, it's the same way we pass in props, but in this case we are just passing in props. Props is just short for properties. Okay, now why are we doing that? We said in the earlier example that components are reusable. So for instance, we can just populate this, and just copy that and paste it whatever number of times, then you save. Now you are going to see we have welcome everywhere. Okay, now instead of having just welcome, think of this as you can just use it anywhere, not just on this page. You can create another page, then you go and use the same component without creating another one. So that's how React comes in handy. Okay, so now how are these going to be different? For example, this is on home page. This is on home page, for instance. Let me just create this. This is just home. Then we have another maybe page which is contact page. We have another page. We can have a lot of pages here that we can create. Okay, so let me just say h1. Then within this one, I'll just say contact. I'm just giving you an example, guys, but you can create, and this won't be on the same page. Okay, now you want to include this same component, but you just want to change something here. Okay, so how are you going to do that? So in most cases, you are going to pass in props. Okay, using the same component instead of creating another one. So the way we pass in props, for instance, here we can just say title is equal to just the same. We pass in attributes in HTML and CSS. So here we are just going to say maybe the title of hello. Then when we save, now we are not going to see anything because we need to access this prop just in the test.js in the app that we are passing this. So the way we do that, we can pass in there as props, then just like that. Then when we can name this anything, but it's just advisable to name them as props so that we don't bring much confusion. Then we can go back to app.test. Then you can see that in here, instead of just displaying welcome, we can display props. Okay, so here we can put in just those props there, just like that. Then we can just come down here and access those props. Then here maybe we can say we can just put this in a p tag, which is a paragraph. Then to access that, you open a parenthesis like that. Then you can just say props dot, so whatever title that it contains, that is contained in the props. So you can see whatever attribute here we have given it, so you can say props dot title. Okay, so here I'll just put props dot title. Now when you save, now you are going to see we have got hello there. Okay, so now you see how this is working. Okay, so we have got hello, but when you see in the home page, there is no prop there because we are not passing in anything. So even there we can pass in whatever that we want. So we can just say text is equal to, so here we can pass in whatever I want to pass in. You can just say maybe welcome. And when we save, we are going to see that nothing is happening because we are not using this prop here. So we have already declared those props there. So we can just go back there and include it in there. So again here we can write whatever tag we want. Then we open parentheses like that. Then here we can say props dot what we have given it is text. So when we save, now we are going to see we have welcome and here we have hello, but we are just using the same prop. So this is what is known as reusable components. Okay, we are just reusing the same component without creating another, but just passing props. Okay, so I think this is understandable. So what we can do here, instead of writing props, the other thing that we can do, we can just destructure it like that. Then when we do that, we can just pass in whatever attribute that we have written here, if it's text or title. So we can pass in there text, and we can also pass in title. And when we save, we're going to have an error. Nothing is going to display because we are we are not accessing those. Let's go back first here. When we save, we should have here, we should change this to title. We are going to have an error because we are not using props, but we are just destructuring, so you can put text. And once we do that, and let's just go back here and save. Okay, props is not defined. Okay, text title, let's save that. We go back here, so we need to remove this. So instead of calling props, so we are destructuring. So when we remove that and save, now you see we are going to have the same thing everywhere. So we can either destructure or we can just put in props and it's just going to work fine. Okay, now as I mentioned earlier, props are also how you pass data from one component to another as parameters. Okay, so we can even define some data here. Maybe we can just say const books, or just const book is equal to let's say React, just like that. So now we can pass in this data as a prop. Okay, so the way we pass in this, we can just come here and let me just remove this. So we can call that, let me just put this as plural. So here we can just call that book is equal to, now the way we pass in data, instead of just attributes, we open curly parentheses like that, then in there we can just pass in those books. Okay, so when you save now, and in here we can just as well, instead of title, we can pass in that book and save. Now when we go back here, when you go back here, we can just pass in that book. Let me just remove the title because we do not have it. So we can just pass in that book, and here where there is title, you can just pass in that book and save. Now you are going to see we have React. Okay, so those I think are the two main ways where we can use props. Just like that, you can pass in attributes, or you can pass in just as just passing in data. This cannot just be a variable, it can be more than one variable. Let me give you another example. Instead of just passing in this like that, you can pass in even an array or an object. So let's say const books is equal to, the first one is React, and let's have another one which is C#. I don't know, maybe I'll learn C# in the future, I like using it, and Java as well, which was one of my first languages. I've even forgotten all the syntax about Java. Okay, so here we can pass in book is equal to books like that, and when we save, we see we still have React, C#, Java there already, as you can see. Okay, so this just works fine. So you can even go there, and in here you can pass this as a list and just say let me just do this. So li, oops, today I'm not having suggestions from VS Code. So here you can just open parentheses like that, then you pass in that book, then you save. I'm just going to have the same thing there, which is just React. Okay, so I think we have come to an end of today's lesson, and just go through and familiarize yourself with this and try to use an object and render this data correctly. But I just show you that we can pass in data as well as just attributes like that. Okay. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and again, just subscribe to my channel. Let's have more views, let's have more subscribers, so that you can also encourage me to create more video content. Thank you so much, and see you in the next video.